To start with, I would like to request Dr. Sutirtha Sahariah, Senior Vice President and Head of Communications, Sulabh International, for doing a presentation as a welcome and context setting and reflections on this summit. So please welcome him. His presentation is on the WTS Way Forward, Next Steps for Global WASH Cooperation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a kind of an honor for me to stand before you in this grand finale of this 3-day seminar. For those in the organizing committee, this is where the celebrations begin to simmer, So, ladies and gentlemen, roughly or approximately 131 days ago, 13th of July, 2025, Jack Sim swooped into New Delhi with his team, Laila and Sarika, who have now become wonderful friends, to discuss summit talks with the president of Sulabh International, Kumar Dilip. And that's how this journey began, 131 days back. My job was to find the title of the summit and to justify why it should be New Delhi. I had the privilege of working with one of the greatest men I've ever known, Bindeshwar Pathak. It was only in 2010 that UN recognized sanitation as a human rights issue. Dr. Pathak did in 1970. And if you look at the Sulabh logo, you see a lady and you see the toilets. He made that connection. The dignity was at the heart of it. The Sulabh sanitation movement that began in 1970, the essence of that movement has been always dignity. Dignity of everyone. Hence, we got the title of the summit, Collective Responsibility, because it's always going to be our collective responsibility for the dignity of ourselves, yourselves, and now for the planet. Now, why New Delhi? I think we had an answer for that already. This is the city where the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, in 2014, gave that clarion call that war against sanitation must be fought on a war footing. Now we have a great leader with us, Rekha Gupta, who is increasingly integrating the best sanitation practices in the civic framework of the city. New Delhi is also the capital of the world's 4th largest economy, leading 1.4 billion into a great future of developed India, Viksit Bharat by 2047. Once again, it's an honor for us to have the leader who is leading us into that future. So a great round of applause once again for the Madam Chief Minister. Minister Mahlobo, as a communication specialist, I've become your fan. Your presence, active participation of the last 3 days has been truly inspiring. You have actually put ornaments around the topic of sanitation with your eloquent speeches. You spoke not only as a policymaker, but as a global citizen concerned about inequality, about conflict, about climate change, and the unmet commitments of the international community. Your remarks reminded us that the sanitation is inseparable from justice and peace. New Delhi, as a capital, as India, we champion the voice of Global South. We believe in self-determination. And thank you for resonating those words. So we began this summit. We had great, representative. The structure of this summit stood on 4 pillars: government leadership, global philanthropy, United Nations, and the corporate sector, and the community as well. So right at the beginning, we had Sri Manohar Lal, the Honorable Minister of Power and Housing and Urban Affairs, who reminded us that a village builds a toilet, but the world builds an environment. Then we had Mr. Sri.R. Patil, the Honorable Minister of Water Resources Jal Shakti, who highlighted the urgency of the last mile service delivery, saying, he cautioned that water scarcity, population pressure, and declining groundwater must reshape our sanitation priorities. We also had the Alkesh Wadhwani from the Gates Foundation. He made a statement that sewers cannot keep up the urban sprawl. Reinvented toilets and non-sewer solutions are essential for the next decade. And we had the United Nations voice, who underscored that sanitation is both economic engine and a climate solution. So during the course of the last 2 days, we navigated through 7 sessions really. 7 sessions touching on different aspects of the sanitation. And just to give a recap, I'm not going to get much into the detail, it can be a bit boring. But then we had India stories yesterday. We had the stalwarts of the government speaking. And in that session, the speakers emphasized that progress over the next decade will rely on deeper partnerships, corporate responsibility, blended finance, research institutions, innovators, and on protecting the dignity and inclusion, especially for sanitation workers and vulnerable communities. Then we had another session on climate and sanitation, and that session showed how climate change is placing unprecedented pressure on sanitation systems because of floods, heat waves, rising temperature, and rapid urbanization. The message was clear. Resilience is not just infrastructure. It requires strong service delivery systems, decentralized and non-sewer solutions, gender and social inclusion, protection and recognition of sanitation workers. Then we had a very technical session on circularity of sanitation. We had speakers from University of Surrey, Sanitation Hygiene Fund, IITs, UNICEF, ENOFs, and they all highlighted a few things. We saw breakthroughs in nutrient recovery and urine diverting technologies. We saw India's first field testing platform at IIT Palkad, the economic and social power of women-led sanitation enterprises, the growing importance of decentralized, non-sewer climate resilient sanitation systems, technical terms, but well. Then we had the health session. And that session kind of touched on some very critical issues that we already know about, but it talked about the climate change and accelerating waterborne diseases everywhere, even in richer countries. Portable and non-sewer toilets that can prevent outbreaks in high-risk, low-infrastructure settings. Neglected topical diseases that persist because sanitation gaps allow worms and parasites to thrive. They also talked about leadership, community partnerships, local models like Sulabh that are key to sustained health gains. Then you had a very special session by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, the MAHUA, that's they're known as. They reaffirmed the national goal of manhole to machine holes and 0 deaths in sewer and septic tank cleaning. And we had presentations from several cities that talked about the Namaste scheme and related programs that are supporting Safai Mitras with health checkups, insurance loans, training and dignified rehabilitation. Then we had the final session, the session on sanitation, economy, and private sector. It was a very engaging session today, this afternoon, and they talked about that sanitation now is a service, not just a toilet. The focus is shifting from infrastructure to operations, reliability, user experience, and long-term service delivery. So these are some of the, in short, a summary of what we heard in the last 2 days. Now, in my conclusion, I mentioned about 131 days. Means there are many people who have worked immensely hard, very hard for the last 131 days. Before I was coming into this auditorium, a journalist outside asked me, whenever I come to Sulabh, I always see the same people. Why? I said, people in Sulabh do not work for an organization. They work for a mission that was set up by the vision. So in my conclusion, I really want to thank the entire Sulabh family, my colleagues Bela, Gaurav, Sakshi, all of you worked, for the mission of our founder, and you have paid a great tribute. With that note, I conclude my talk, and on the dais, Dr. Chakrabarti, Nitya Pathak, welcome. It's my honor to speak before you. Thank you so much.